Hello and welcome to another episode of Sermon Braindump. My name is Scott Dalen. I am an ELCA pastor in Southwest Iowa, and I present these videos on a weekly basis for a twofold purpose. The first of which is to move my brain out of percolation mode. I like coffee. As I think about the gospel text for the week and move it into what I call sermonation mode, as I'm actually writing the sermon that I will preach to my congregation on this coming Sunday. The second reason for these videos is to just allow you, the viewer, who have come across these videos or this particular video for whatever reason has brought you here, to gain some further insight into the assigned gospel text that is listed for this coming Sunday. Now, this coming Sunday is May 10th, 2015, Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all those moms out there. But the sixth Sunday of Easter, and the assigned gospel text for this Sunday is John 15 verses 9 through 17. Now, a tiny little bit of background. This gospel text is a direct continuation of last week's gospel text, and so if you're interested in that kind of larger context, go back and check out that previous video as well, episode number 50, I believe, if memory serves me correctly. Yeah, so the larger setting for this entire thing in John's Gospel is at the Last Supper, and takes place during what is called the Farewell Discourse. Jesus has done the foot washing at the Last Supper, which only happens in John's Gospel, and had the exchange with Judas, and Judas has exited stage left. Oh, maybe stage right, we don't know. And now he's just talking to the remaining disciples before they head across the Kidron Valley to the garden, which is where they go and Jesus is arrested. So this whole situation is happening within that context. Now, last week, if you, again, have seen that video, the theme was abiding or remaining, and it happens all over that particular portion, which is the first 8 verses of chapter 15. And now here, this week we pick up, and there's no gap at all. It's still the same conversation, and in very many ways it's still connected and will likely sound very similar. So Jesus says, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love." Hey, abide. We're still abiding. "If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing, but I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I choose you, and I appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. I am giving you these commands so that you may love one another." Okay, so again, we continue to hear that theme of abide, remain, camp out with, be in relationship with, however you want to say it. That continues again. But now Jesus kind of switches things up, and we hear the word command or commandment several times, and Jesus is pretty blatant, because he says it several times. And again, if something repeats, it's usually important, so pay attention to it. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. So keep them. And so then that raises the question, oh, okay, well, what's the commandment of Jesus? And he tells us over and over again, love one another. Love, 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 love. Just as I love you, love one another. Just as the Father loves me and I have loved you, love one another. And if we think back to another encounter that Jesus had at one point, someone asked him, "Lord, what is the greatest commandment?" And he's referring, of course, to not only the 10 Commandments, but all of the many Deuteronomical, killed that word, the many laws that are found in the book of Deuteronomy, which is the Mosaic law or Moses law, the not only the 10 Commandments, but like all the many rules that the Jewish people follow. So he's saying, hey, Lord, what is the most important commandment? And Jesus kind of looks at him, he's like, love God and then love your neighbor. Pretty simple. And that's kind of what's going on here. It's that theme of love. Love the one who gives us life. Love God. Place God above all else, which is where God should be. And then love each other. It's not, don't judge. It's not, it's just love each other as you yourself desire to be loved. And that's what it is. And so that's kind of what is happening here. And we hear it, abide in my love. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I love you. And I know that you are my friends. You are not my servants. You are my friends. We are on equal footing. So do as I ask of you. There's a couple different things that jump at me that are interesting in this, again, short passage, in addition to the whole abide and follow my commandment to love each other. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. Keep in mind, again, the setting, the Last Supper. Jesus is about to go out and be arrested. He's going to die. After that, he will raise again, yes, and then eventually he's going to go back to heaven, and the disciples will be alone, but Jesus tells them also in this setting, I will send the advocate to you, I will send the Holy Spirit to you so that you will not be alone, and the Spirit will abide with you. But the setting, as Jesus is talking over the course of this long passage, over which is like 4 chapters, he's telling them, I'm leaving. I'm going to be gone. I'm with you now. But soon I will not be with you. You see me now. Soon you will not see me. I'm going where you cannot go. All of this is happening. And so the disciples got to be a little bit freaked out. Yet he's telling them that your joy will be complete. Now, what does that tell us? That to abide in the love of Christ and to share that love with one another, like honestly, to genuinely care and love one another, gives us joy, and that the gospel brings joy in ways that we can't often understand. And it does not take away the difficulties of the world, the darkness that's in the world, the darkness that's even within our own lives. It doesn't negate that. But yet we find joy, we cling to that joy, we find hope in knowing that there's more to this, that we're not alone in this, because God, as Jesus says, abides with us. And yet it's hard to really put into words. Just this notion that the joy of Christ is within us, and that it is complete. And sometimes that goes beyond our understanding of how can we be joyful in the face of so much that's going on. Just think about everything happening in the world today. In recent history, Nepal has been shocked by these great big earthquakes. We have tension around the world, interreligious tension, and there is tension in the Middle East. There's racial tension here in the United States. We got situation in Baltimore in recent history. All kinds of stuff going on. Tornadoes down in Oklahoma just in the last few days. I mean, stuff is happening, and darkness is in the world, and yet we have joy, and we cling to that joy. Sometimes, despite all this dark stuff that's going on, that's all we can do. So that's an interesting notion that Jesus gives us here in the middle of what had to have been a dark moment for the disciples. And not only that, the context of John's gospel in the first place, written well after the fact, that the community has been cast out of the synagogue, out of their connection to their Jewish culture, their Jewish community, and keep in mind at this time, it was considered that these people still considered themselves Jewish. They were just following a new way of following Judaism, and so this is kind of all very, very fitting that a lot of dark stuff is happening, and yet they find joy. So that's kind of that. And the other thing that really speaks to me is the notion that Jesus says, "You did not choose me, but I chose you." This speaks to the nature of faith being a gift of the Spirit, that we do not under our own power seek God. We don't. That faith is only possible as a gift of the Holy Spirit, that God chooses us. And this speaks to the sacrament, the wonderful nature of the sacraments, in that it's nothing that we do, particularly baptism, which is when we consider that the Holy Spirit comes upon us. That this is not the work of the pastor. It is not the work of the individual. It's not the work of anyone other than God. God is choosing us. God is pouring out the Spirit upon us. God is actively forgiving us and coming into relationship with us. It's only possible through the work of God, through Jesus Christ, under the power of the Holy Spirit. And that's a wonderful aspect to consider. And it's very Lutheran in its theology, in that it's not a choice that we make, that we are chosen and we respond to that with our actions and with our lives. And so that's another interesting notion here that I may explore within the context of the sermon itself. It's kind of coming back around full circle now here to wrap it up. Admittedly, this one's a little shorter than normal video-wise, but a lot of this same theme was in the last video. So again, if you're interested, go back and check out last week's video, episode number 50, and we'll hear a lot of this same theme. But in closing, it's just a wonderful notion that we are chosen by God, and God does the action. And how do we respond? Well, we love one another, and knowing that in our showing of love, God takes delight and also abides with us. So that's what's happening. If you have any questions or comments or insights and opinions of your own, please pop those down in the comment section. I always love to hear from you when those come, and we can continue the conversation that way. And it's really a great thing. Otherwise, I hope you have a blessed week, and that God is with you, and that everything goes good. We'll catch you next time.